It was a cold Monday morning. He had exactly $7.43 in his bank account. His rent was 3 days late. His phone bill was due that afternoon, and he had no idea where his next paycheck was coming from. Daniel had been looking for work for almost 2 months. Every morning he put on his best shirt, walked from one place to another, filled out applications, and heard the same words. "We'll call you," but nobody called. That morning Daniel was walking home when something caught his attention. An envelope. It was lying beside a bench in the parking lot. Daniel looked around. Nobody was there. He picked it up. Inside was $100. 4 crisp $20 bills and 2 $10 bills. Daniel froze. For a few seconds, he just stared at the money. $100. To someone else, it might not have meant much. To Daniel, it was everything. $100 could buy groceries. It could pay part of his rent. It could keep his phone turned on. It could give him a few more days to figure things out. He looked inside the envelope again. There was also a small piece of paper, a name, and a phone number. Daniel held the paper in his hand. Then he looked at the money. He whispered to himself, "God knows I need this." He put the envelope in his pocket and started walking. But after a few steps, he stopped. He looked back at the bench. Nobody was coming. He continued walking. Then he stopped again. He took the envelope out. He looked at the phone number. His mind started fighting with itself. "You need this money. You're broke. Nobody knows you found it. Just keep it." Daniel closed his eyes. Then he put the envelope back in his pocket. He walked home. When he arrived at his apartment, he opened the refrigerator. There was almost nothing inside. A bottle of water, half a carton of milk, and an old piece of bread. Daniel sat at the kitchen table. The envelope was sitting in front of him. He stared at it for a long time. Then his phone rang. It was his landlord. Daniel didn't answer. The phone stopped ringing. A few seconds later, he received a text. "Daniel, I need the rent by tomorrow." Daniel looked at the envelope again. $100. He could pay part of the rent. He could buy food. He could breathe. He picked up his phone. He typed the number from the paper. Then he stopped. His thumb hovered over the call button. He almost pressed it. But then he remembered something his mother used to tell him when he was a child. If something doesn't belong to you, keeping it won't make you richer. Daniel stared at the screen. Then he pressed call. A woman answered. "Hello?" Daniel said. "Hi, I think I found something that belongs to you." There was silence. Then the woman's voice changed. "An envelope?" "Yes." "With money?" "Yes, $100. The woman didn't speak for several seconds. Then Daniel heard her crying. "Where did you find it?" "Near the parking lot by the grocery store." "Oh my God." Daniel became concerned. "Are you okay?" The woman took a breath. "Yes, I'm sorry." She paused. "That money was for my son." Daniel looked at the envelope. "What happened?" "My son has been sick. I needed to buy his medicine today." Daniel didn't say anything. The woman continued. "I thought I lost it forever." Daniel looked around his nearly empty apartment. He thought about his rent, his empty refrigerator, his unpaid bills. He thought about how badly he needed that money. But then he thought about a child waiting for medicine. Daniel said, "I'll bring it to you." The woman gave him her address. Daniel grabbed his jacket. Before leaving, he looked at the envelope one more time. For a moment, he wondered if he was making the biggest mistake of his life. Then he walked out. 20 minutes later, Daniel arrived at the woman's apartment. She opened the door. She looked exhausted. And behind her stood a little boy. The woman saw the envelope in Daniel's hand. She covered her mouth. "You really brought it back." Daniel smiled. "It wasn't mine." She took the envelope with trembling hands. Then she looked at Daniel and said, "You don't understand what you just did for me." Daniel nodded. "I think I do." She pulled out one of the bills. "Please, take $20. Daniel immediately shook his head. "No. Please. No. Your son needs it." She looked at him. "You're struggling too." Daniel smiled. "I'll figure something out." The woman started crying again. Then she said, "I don't know your story, but I hope life gives you back the kindness you just gave me." Daniel thanked her and walked away. He went home with empty pockets. His rent was still late. His refrigerator was still empty. His bank account still had $7.43. Nothing about his financial situation had changed, but something inside him had. That night, Daniel sat at the same kitchen table. He looked at his phone. There were still no job offers, no money, no good news. But he smiled, because that day, Life had given him a choice. He could have taken the money. Nobody would have known. Nobody would have blamed him. He had every reason to keep it. But he didn't. The next morning, Daniel woke up early. He put on his best shirt. He printed 5 more resumes. And he went back outside. He kept walking. He kept applying. He kept trying. Because sometimes, doing the right thing doesn't immediately change your circumstances. Sometimes, you do the right thing simply because you refuse to let difficult circumstances change who you are. Daniel didn't find $100 that morning. He found something more valuable. He found out who he was when nobody was watching. And sometimes, that's where a new life begins. So let me ask you something. If you were Daniel, you had $7 in your bank account. Your rent was late. Your refrigerator was almost empty. And you found $100 that nobody knew you had found. Would you have returned it? Because sometimes, the hardest decisions aren't between right and wrong. They're between what you need and who you choose to be.